back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are staying calm, staying local, keeping it happening around here. And as much as I always seemingly have my Coppin State pennant around here, for those of you who tune into AM 1570, you'll notice we haven't had any Coppin State sports here right on up since the MEAC tournament went the other direction right around March 11th, March 12th, March 13th. Everybody sort of got turned upside down. If you've been listening to Baltimore Positive, you know we've had various school presidents and chancellors on from UMBC, and Dr. Freeman Rabowski and Dr. Jay Perman joined us from UMS, and as well as Dr. Kim Schatzel from Towson. And Coppin State, it's been a little while. We have a transition going on there with the president of the university. It's been such a strange time. Derek Carter's been my friend for a couple years now, as we've, I think we're 5 years now into our relationship and our partnership with Coppin State. He was the Coppin State Director of Athletics as appointed in the summer of 16. Derek, man, I tell you what, you played football. Did you play for Dooley or did you play for Beamer or both? I wanted to introduce it the right way, but I wasn't sure.
No, I'm old. I played for Bill Dooley. Frank Beamer came 2 years after I completed my eligibility.
Well, I would think Coach Dooley did not have a pandemic handbook he handed down to you for 2020 and say, here you go, Derek, when things get tough, refer to the pandemic handbook. We always kid about that around here, but I don't know that any of us had a plan. It's like Mike Tyson. We all had a plan and we got punched, right?
Until you get punched. That's exactly right. Coach Dooley would just tell us to don't worry about the torpedoes, man. Full steam ahead. So that.
Well, for all of us, my dad was born in 1919 and stood in soup lines up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and chicken in every pot, and he never voted for Republican after Herbert Hoover. So I heard all of that growing up because I had an older father, and my father didn't serve, but my grandfather did, and, stories of war and Vietnam, and so many of us had older brothers or uncles or people that served, aunts that served in any of these wars. But this last 2 months, I would think for every young, spry Coppin State student that we have over there in a baseball or a lacrosse or a soccer or a track or any college student, any high school senior, this has changed lives for young people. We like to think of ourselves as hardened veterans. I've been through 2 tours of leukemia duty with my wife, and, we've all had hardship when we get to be older, right? But this is going to change everything for everyone, right? Like, everyone's had to lean in and dig a little deeper the last 2 months on behalf of everyone around them, right?
No question about it. And we've been talking about this on just 2020 is going to be a year that my sons, our students at Coppin State, students all across the nation are going to remember 2020 as a landmark year that clearly, and everyone knows this, we're lives are changed forever. So with no handbook and as everybody's aiming at a moving target, it's such a challenge to plan, because what you plan today certainly will change in a week or two. So very difficult times and no handbook, and I appreciate the military references that you provided, because as you referenced to Coach Dooley, a lot of his sayings were based on military tactics and everything. A lot of older football coaches operated like that because they served in the military. And there's no tactics for this. So it's just
infantry officer in the U.S. Marine Corps was Coach Dooley. I'm looking him up right now.
Okay.
So he was born in 32. So I'm guessing he served right around Korea time, right?
Yes, he was. He was Korean. The reason he was born the same year as my father. So I can equate his time with my father, as he didn't serve Korea. He trained, and as he was about to embark on his active service in Korea, the war ended. So he never went. But Dooley, yes, he was definitely a military minded football coach.
No, Derek, when I guess for all of us to get to be our age at this point, and we're in the middle of this, and people are looking to all of us for leadership or some sort of wisdom or guidance beyond wash your hands, put a mask on, stay 6 feet away. It's a virus, it's a pathogen. Understand what that represents for all of us and for other people, and for my wife being immune compromised, and all this education I think we've all had about all of this.
Mm-hmm.
There has been this point where there was a stoppage of time that we all shared, right? Like there was that moment where groceries, water, certainly toilet paper, we all know that, right? That was first for everybody, that came along and stopped me thinking about Maryland and basketball, and me thinking about opening day, and hockey fans thinking about hockey, and NBA fans thinking about something other than The Last Dance and Michael Jordan from 30 years ago, right? And what our experience would be. I was upset when they canceled the Pearl Jam tour. Now I've lost these Rolling Stones dates. So, but for everybody, there was disappointment. For you and for Coppin, and I mean, you're the director of athletics over there. You have all these programs, and I'm going to let you brag on your kids and your coaches and your department and all that. But, I mean, you had girls at the MEAC tournament. Boys headed to the MEAC tournament. You had track and field. You had all of this stuff going on, spring getting ready to sprung. You had baseball, and Sherm's got the troops ready to go run around play baseball. And then all the everything, every plan you had. I mean, I remember the night that I went into my calendar and I literally just had to cancel every flight, every trip, every event, everything I was, literally I emptied out my calendar, and how weird it was the first day I woke up and it was just all sort of like white space. And I'm like, wow. And every human being was doing the same thing. Give me a little thought on Coppin and where you were on March, let's say 10th, 12th.
Well, I arrived in Norfolk, Virginia for the MEAC tournament on March 10th, which I believe was a Tuesday, because our women played at noon that day and the men were scheduled to play on Thursday of that week.
And we carried the game at noon.
Right. And the men were scheduled to play 8 o'clock Thursday. So women did play on the Tuesday, and I will never forget this. So much transition occurred in between Tuesday and Thursday afternoon when the presidents and athletic directors of the conference met and had to make the decision to cancel not only the tournament, we had to cancel bowling, had a championship tournament coming up, and just the decision to cancel our spring sports. And some of that were aligned with the NCAA's decision to cancel spring sports as a whole.
Not to mention campus is shutting down, right? Literally.
Oh, yeah, and that's the other thing. The following week was spring break for Coppin State. So we knew the students were not returning, but just from that March 10th until the following week, that Tuesday would have been the 17th of spring break week. But in a matter of 7 to 10 days, everything changed. And, the correlation, when Rudy Gilbert tested positive, that seemed to be the one instant that really changed everything with all the tournaments, the basketball conference championship tournaments. Everyone canceled, and everything got canceled during that time. And then campuses shut down and businesses closed, and we were all put on lockdown, as you said. And now we're at the point of, here we are, 6 to 8 weeks of planning on trying to just restart our lives. And it's been very interesting, trying, emotional challenges.
And for the seniors as well, right? And for kids trying to learn remotely. I mean, we've talked to every president in the area. And again, we're going to have your incoming president on hopefully sometime this summer when, we all try to get sea legs on. I can only imagine taking over a gig or leaving a gig or moving or any of these things transitional things people would be doing, at this point in their lives. But for these kids to go back home, I mean, we had Morgan State president on, Dr. Wilson came on and said, some of the children, a percentage of the I say children, I still think of 19-year-old, you know what I mean? But student athletes aside, just students, don't have a home. This is their home. This is where they live. They live on campus. They don't have another place to go. And if they had another place to go, they wouldn't have Wi-Fi to be able to properly continue their education on the other side of this. I think we've all learned about the just if you live someplace remote, you don't even have to be impoverished or, in that circumstance. There are just places where Wi-Fi doesn't go in this country still. We're learning from, the side of a barn somewhere or in a city where, there are some serious poverty challenges, even for our best students, have the hardest circumstances. This is really something for all Americans to look at for education, and I think I hope somebody down on Capitol Hill is taking a look at this, because there's nothing more important than we were cutting off education to our young people. It's tough.
Well, sure. I mean, that's a whole other topic of the inequities of society. And, our students on campus, it's a safe place, safe meaning they have access to Wi-Fi, they have access to proper instruction, face-to-face instruction, tutorial programming, computer labs. All those things allow students to be safe mentally, emotionally, and have the security of knowing they have all the resources on campus. So when the decision, rightfully, the decision was made to close campuses and do the remote learning, you cannot do that on the assumption that everyone has those same resource opportunities that they do while on campus. So it was a challenge. Many universities had to come up with ways to provide, if you had excess laptops, give loaners to students, give loaners to faculty. All faculty may not have the ability to teach remotely, as you just assume when you say, oh, let's just go remote. Well, no, it's not as simple as that, because everyone does not have the resources that you may expect them to have.
Not everybody still has a landline like I do.
Well, yeah. You're speaking to someone without a landline.
And many people do not have a landline, right? So if your cell goes down at your house, literally, the Wi-Fi, your 4G goes down, you're done, right?
Sure. So, like I said, we will not forget 2020 because it has changed. And hopefully, as much as there have been some things that have been very sad about 2020, we can come out of this being better people and being more sensitive to the issues that so many people in society have to deal with that others of us may take for granted as being the norm. It's not the norm for everyone to, in this case, have the technological advancements that you just think everyone may have, because they don't. So we have to figure out ways to move forward and still be inclusive, that everyone can progress and continue to be academically successful, and we can come out of this with a better society.
Derek Carter is our guest. He is the director of athletics at Coppin State. I got the banner up here. We were carrying MEAC games, and we weren't anymore. And, for you, and I'll brag on your football career and playing at Virginia Tech and lettering down there and all that. And but if this were you in 1980, wherever, and the bowl game was out in front of you and the graduation, I think all of us can put ourselves, the older folks can put ourselves in that younger person's position and really feel for that. But for the athletic side and for anyone that was accomplishing something or on the road to accomplishing something, to have it just end has been quite a life lesson, right? And maybe a life lesson that you didn't have in your and I guess for anybody that's been an athlete, if you get injured, right, it's sort of a similar, something just sort of stops. My wife got cancer, things that just everything in your life stops for a little while. From an athletic perspective, I'm sure you had a lot of kids around there looking to Coach Carter, right? To the big brother to give a little advice. Everybody was looking for somebody to give them a hug, I think, and we couldn't hug anybody. That was part of the problem, right?
Yeah. And certainly this was disappointing to so many people. But the thing is, it was disappointing across the nation. And, the injury when you have that might end in your particular senior year, it doesn't affect the entire team. but this is nationwide. So everyone was in the same boat. That may have probably helped it that everyone had a shoulder to lean on because, Coppin State felt the same. Coppin State seniors felt the same that Morgan State seniors felt. And as disappointing as it was and is, everyone's in the same boat. So maybe that, I don't know, could provide some sense of relief.
Well, we're all going to come out of it together too, right? Literally.
We are. That's the thing. That's the thing. But we had to have conversations with our student athletes that, okay, your season is over, and that's unfortunate, but you're still students, and we cannot come out of this with an excuse that we did not succeed academically because we had a situation that a disappointing side to our athletic season.
Well, if anything, it's bought all of us more time, right? Like that's
right.
What I've thought about.
Wisely, yes, you have to use your time wisely.
I haven't watched Oriole games every night the way I would have, and lacrosse games and this and that, and hockey and basketball and whatever. I didn't even watch the Jordan thing, quite frankly. Did you watch the Jordan thing?
I did. I certainly did.
Give me a little feedback. Give me some thoughts on the Jordan thing.
Well, I've been a Jordan fan for so many years, and back when Jordan was playing, particularly Sunday afternoons when you watch the games, it was must-see TV for me.
Yeah, I never hated on Jordan. You know what I mean?
Just to watch him play.
Yeah, even if you liked Clyde Drexler, you could root for or whomever. It didn't matter. You could root for Jordan, and everybody's reacted to it differently, I think, 30 years later or 23 years later from whatever the dream season, but the whole story going back almost 40 years for you and me, right? I mean, you were contemporary, literally, right?
Sure. Yeah, and the thing about was good for me to see, just to reflect a little bit, his style of play, his athleticism, his game, offensively and defensively, translates till today. He would be a great player today. You can look at some older players and say, well, the game has changed and the floor is more spread out. Can they still be effective today? Michael Jordan would still be Michael Jordan today. And I think that's been the eye-opener for the younger generation who may think that, for example, LeBron might be the best of all time. But when you see Jordan and see his athleticism, and it translates. So physically, it was good to see that, but also what made him who he is and was on the court was the mental toughness that he had, and he made people around him play. And leaders have to do that. You can't be friends with everyone all the time if you have a vision and a goal to accomplish. Sometimes it's necessary to push people to limits that they may not be able to realize they can attain, and that's what he had the ability to do, and that's what probably impressed me and reminded me the most, is that I had forgotten his, kind of dark side, but he pushed his teammates, and that's how you win 6 championships. He never lost a championship in a championship series. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, there's an edge about athletics that isn't always like, you're trying to win, right? Like literally, right?
Well, so many people go to a game and they just see what's on the court. But some of the words that are said pregame, at halftime, during the practices, that's what makes, and that's what builds a culture, a championship culture, and that's what makes the great ones great, is the way they're able to push people. But to see behind the scenes and hear the intense language and sometimes unfair criticism of teammates, that's part of the game, and it's probably insightful that people are able to kind of see behind the scenes, because it's not foreign. It happens everywhere. It's just you don't have the opportunity to see it. What you see is on the court during the games, but it's so much behind the scenes of athletics that really make a team who they are.
Well, it gives you appreciation for Phil Jackson too, right?
Oh, Oh, Phil Jackson, that's a documentary within itself.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, you're saying managing that. You're talking about the drama in the middle of all of it. Yeah. Managing it is not as easy as Bill Belichick makes it look.
Not at all. Not at all. You're talking personality. You have to manage all these different personalities. And,
all alpha, every one of them.
Yeah, and still, you have a vision as the leader, as the head coach, on what you want to do. So it's tough. And Phil Jackson, he did it with two teams who, granted, had a lot of talent, but you can have talent. You still have to be able to coach it, which is your reference of Belichick. He succeeded in that for a very long time.
Well, I'll tell you what, you relax a little bit. I know it's not going to be a relaxing time because you're trying to figure out whether we're going to have fall and schedules and this and students and all of this, but hang on. We're going to be back here for you guys once you start dribbling and shooting and doing and hitting and doing all the things. Tell Sherm to hang in there, too. We'll get some baseball back. But I appreciate what you do. I should have you on more often. Just sit around and talk about Jordan, and you can tell old Dooley stories. I'm digging it.
Hey, I'm at the point that I feel old now, so I have great stories.
Oh, well, man, that's what we do around here.
I love to talk. Yeah, I love to talk to you anytime, and I'll tell Sherm he has a great attitude, and all my coaches have been great in maintaining communications with the teams. They meet once, twice a week on Zoom, and making sure we're mentally strong and academically strong. So everyone's been doing a great job, and we're planning on how we're going to open in the fall, and we look forward to getting through this thing and everybody staying safe and following the guidelines, and we'll be stronger when we come out of this.
Let's just keep everybody safe. That's it. I'm at the raconteur part of my career now. I use that word. People say, what's raconteur? That sounds so French. I'm like, it's a person that tells stories, man. That's it, So, good storyteller. So that's what I'm about. I appreciate your stories and your athletic pursuits back in the day, and now trying to keep things straight over there at Coppin State amidst all this madness and all the coaches. And tell Juan we said hello, and Sherm, everybody over there, and Ruffin, and we appreciate you guys. And we'll get back to doing what we're doing at some point here. In the meantime, at least we have nice weather for a little while, all right?
There you go. Find the bright side. That's how you do it.
That's it. That's Baltimore Positive.
That's always a bright side somewhere.
Well, yeah, the bright side for me is I've had more time to think about things. My wife's been doing more yoga. We've been eating better, sleeping better, thinking clearer, and we're going to come out of this thing in a whole different way. I believe that. I really do.
Absolutely.
You got it. There he is. Director of Athletics over at Coppin State, Derek Carter, joining us here. You got to work to get Derek to talk about his old Dooley stories, but once you get him going, it's good. It's good. I don't get him on often. I've had the coaches on. The coaches are the one coaching the players. But when they stop, I stop, and it's great to visit with the AD, Derek Carter, over at Coppin State. We hope to get everybody organized. If you missed any of our collegiate conversations with university presidents, chancellors, make sure you find them out at Baltimore Positive. They're also in the buyatoyota.com audio vault at WNST.net. We've merged the brands together. Both of them have the purple magma lamp from Sporticulture. Big thanks to our friends at Planet Fitness. Want to remind everybody that they're working out at 7 o'clock. They're working in 7 o'clock every night. If you can get out a little bit, make sure you go to planetfitness.com. Learn about all the things they're doing. Teddy was on last week as well. Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. They're helping the folks at St. Francis. We're going to talk about that next week, as well as the Maryland Food Bank and feeding folks and feeding nurses chicken sandwiches 2 weeks ago. Real fresh, real fast. I haven't gassed the car up much, even though the price of gas is down. I did thank the folks at Royal Farms for that. And more coffee up there as well at Royal Farms. I am Nestor. Big thanks to Coppin State, our partners, and the Mighty Eagles for all that they do. We run their games, and you hear them from time to time here at AM 1570. I'm going to get my banner back up. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. Towson, Baltimore, keeping calm, staying local, and always Baltimore Positive.